So let's talk about Mayweather versus McGregor. It is in the books, one of the most anticipated sporting events of 2017 without question, presented by Showtime Sports. Mayweather with the victory with a 10th round knockout of McGregor in what was actually, in my opinion, one of the more fun fights that I've seen in quite some time, and way more fun than I expected. A lot of people who are somewhat casual boxing fans consider Mayweather a bit of a boring fighter. Because he's more of a defensive fighter. A lot of folks don't like him because of that. But if you're into the science of boxing, and if you're a fan of like the defensive tactics and what Mayweather does, his fights are always very fascinating, even if they're not as spectacular as, say, a big heavyweight knockdown fight. With this fight, though, things were interesting because the two guys had tons of charisma. They're both great trash talkers. They're both pretty much heels here. But what I found interesting in the fight is that it pretty much went the way that we kind of thought it would, where Mayweather weathered the storm, no pun intended, and allowed McGregor to pretty much tire himself out and then pick him apart in later rounds. And of course, this came because not only is that a strategy that Mayweather employs in many of his fights, but also because McGregor himself has never fought a long competitive boxing match. The most he's ever fought is 25 minutes in the octagon in UFC, which is also very hard. But the thing that I think was most unexpected was just how good McGregor did in this fight. Some folks were saying that Floyd was going to knock him out in the early rounds. Others were saying that McGregor would embarrass himself, and he really didn't. In fact, this is one of the more competitive fights that Floyd's ever had. Now, obviously, Floyd is 40 years old, and I saw some people saying, oh, he's 40 years old, he can't hack. Listen, when you're a professional athlete, yes, when you're 40, it's not as good as, your body's not as good as it is when you're like 28, 29. The difference between Floyd and other athletes is that Floyd has made a career of not getting hit. So a typical 40-year-old boxer may get hit 3 or 4 times as many times as Floyd has, and as a result of that, he will be more punchy, he will be slower, his body will break down faster. Floyd is a very, very, very high-level athlete, and as a result of that, he's able to withstand punishment and protect himself from punishment better than other athletes can. So Floyd at 40, people who look at Floyd and say, well, he was 40 years old, they don't understand Floyd Mayweather. They don't understand how good of an athlete he is. They don't respect, or they just don't know. Like, they just don't know what this guy's about. So even Floyd at 40 is better than a lot of 30-year-olds. I mean, this dude's never lost a fight for a reason. But what I think was surprising was also the fact that McGregor was impressive. Not just with the fact that he hung in there for 10 rounds in what was essentially a freak show fight, but the fact that McGregor showed an incredible boxing prowess. He was coming at Floyd from different angles. He was tricking Floyd. Floyd weathered the storm for the first 5 or so rounds. Right around round 6 is when he really started putting the punishment on McGregor, which would, of course, lead to a knockout. But he really put it on in round 6. But you could kind of be surprised in a way as to how good McGregor did. Again, you expected McGregor to come out more aggressive in the early rounds and maybe tire himself out, but he was connecting with some pretty decent shots. However, the thing about Floyd is that he's so fast at blocking and dodging and at rolling with the punches that you really don't know how much damage you really hit Floyd with. You know what I mean? It's hard to really damage this dude, and we almost never see him in a vulnerable state. And he certainly did not look vulnerable, but it's not so much that McGregor looked great. It's more so that he looked great in comparison to what many of us thought he would look like. You know what I mean? We came into this thing, I'm a fan of both boxing and mixed martial arts. I like all combat sports and pro wrestling, as you know. And you go into this thing and you just think that Conor's going to get embarrassed. And I thought he would too, actually. But he came out there, showed a really good tactical offense early. But you could just tell that Floyd's got more experience. He's been in the game longer. And he's also smaller, but he is, pound for pound the best ever to many people for a reason. This is not just hype. The dude never lost a fight because he knows how to not lose. There were a couple of things about the fight that I found interesting. McGregor, I think, was a little too... He grabbed Floyd a bit too much, and he also was delivering some really strange hammer shots and shots to the back of the head that I was surprised that the referee did not, call. I was very surprised. He did it several times in the fight. I thought that was kind of weird, but Floyd wasn't really hurt. There was maybe like one or two shots that really hurt, or at least that stunned Floyd. But other than that, and McGregor's a powerful fighter. I mean, he has knockout power. We know this. Floyd, even at 40, again, the dude is just, he's legit, bro. He's the real deal, and this is not just some random celebrity deathmatch type thing. This is, one of the best ever in history going up against Conor McGregor, and he had to have known it wouldn't have been easy, and it wasn't. But pretty much what happened, like I said, is Floyd waited for McGregor to kind of get tired. That was the game plan. We saw it coming from a mile away, and then started to chop him down like a tree. It got really bad, like I said, round 6. Now, with round 8, it was interesting because he showed a lot of really good defense and head movement, which, talk about McGregor, which, again, the dude came in here definitely prepared for a boxing fight, not so much an MMA fight. Remember, MMA and boxing are very different when it comes to tactics, stances, pivots, all that stuff. It's a completely different game. There's no kicks in boxing, no grappling, so it's a totally different game. But round 9 is when things got bad. I don't know if McGregor pissed off Mayweather or not, but Mayweather was rocking McGregor with some huge shots, and McGregor was ready to go down. I mean, there were a couple times here where the dude was just loopy, and he was tired. He was eating lefts and rights. At the end of the round, I'm wondering, okay, wait a minute, like, what's going on here? The dude had trouble getting to the corner, and I was like, okay, he might finish him in the 10th round. But in the 10th round, he took even more punishment. Mayweather was way more aggressive. He was kind of the baby face here. He was kind of the good guy, as, the bigger guy, Conor McGregor, the younger guy, was like the heel. They did the whole veteran, can he hang on with this young guy storyline. I thought it was, again, really like a movie. It really was like a movie. It was a freak show fight, but it wasn't an embarrassment to the sport at all. McGregor came in there with a real prowess to win this thing. He didn't win, but he still was very impressive, and I got to give my hats off to him. I respect him. Beating a man in his own jungle, in his own backyard, is very, very difficult, especially when he's now 50-0. And it's interesting because Mayweather now has a win over the Big Show and a win over Conor McGregor. So he has conquered the WWE and the UFC and boxing. So millions and millions of dollars. What I thought was interesting is that after the fight, McGregor actually talked about fighting in UFC again, which surprised me because there's no way that he can make this kind of money in UFC or even remotely close to it. It's just not going to even be in the same stratosphere. But I guess he still has a couple years left according to him, and maybe he'll do it. Maybe make a few more bucks and then bow out. The only real big fights left for him is if he does potentially fight GSP or possibly another fight with Diaz as well. That may be something coming in the future. But right now, I mean, the dude collected the biggest paycheck of his entire life without question from this Mayweather fight. And it was also cool because after the fight, Mayweather actually apologized for the Pacquiao fight, which I did think was kind of boring. And I did feel that, with the Pacquiao shoulder injury and that whole thing that went down, like, this fight with Conor McGregor was better than the Pacquiao fight. I mean, this was actually a much more entertaining fight to watch. Conor hung in there, and for a while there, I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe he's going to get him. Like, I'm not going to lie. There were a couple parts in this fight where I thought he might have a chance to win this thing. I thought maybe Floyd couldn't mount that comeback, but he did. He mounted the comeback. He was very, very confident. He ate a lot of McGregor shots. Didn't really, sell it. Didn't really seem like he was hurt. Just came in there head on and wound up being much more aggressive than we rarely see Mayweather this aggressive. He came in there, he wanted to win, he knew he had to win, and he did win via knockout in the 10th round. Just good stuff, fun night, very historic night in the history of sports. Will we ever see this again? I think we will. I do think we will see something like this again. As far as these two guys fighting, I'm not saying we're going to see these two guys fight again, but I'm saying something similar where you have like cross-branded, different sport pay-per-views and things like that. I think we will see that now. The precedent has been set, though, so we'll see how it goes. What did you think about McGregor versus Mayweather? It's been talked about for a long time. It actually happened, and while it's happening, I couldn't even believe it actually happened. Let me know in the comments, and thank you again. for checking out this video here on World of Geekdom. Subscribe if you have not. And I hope you all had a great day. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep because it's late and people just left my house. And it's probably the same for a lot of you, unless you're watching this in the morning, in which case they're already gone. I'll talk to you later.